Ministers, we'll discuss cabinet ministers, what is the difference between cabinet ministers, ministers of states and deputy ministers. So when you talk about cabinet ministers, usually senior and experienced member of the party or parties forming the government are appointed by president of Indian governor or as cabinet ministers. So what happens is that when a party got elected, it appoints its ministers. Usually they are of the same party, but it may happen that a person from a different party can also be elected as cabinet ministers. When you talk about minister of states, these are considered as junior ministers and have less importance compared to cabinet ministers. So basically hierarchy अगर देखा जाए तो cabinet minister के बाद आते हैं minister of states. They are junior and they have less importance compared to cabinet ministers. When you talk about deputy ministers, they are not given the independent charge of ministry or any department. For example, ministry of HRD ministry होती है, finance ministry होती है. So in deputy ministers, they are not given the independent charge of ministry or department. When we talk about the cabinet ministers, usually they are given the charge of important ministry. जो भी important ministry होती है जैसे finance, defense, ministry of external affairs, so वो सब important ministries है. तो cabinet ministers को usually they are given the charge of important ministry. When you talk about the ministry of state, they are attached to cabinet ministers or sometimes given independent charge of some. तो कभी कभी usually they are attached to cabinet ministers, but sometimes they have given the independent charge of some ministries. Now deputy ministers are attached to the cabinet ministers or ministers of state to assist them. When we talk about the cabinet minister, number of cabinet minister is not fixed. Prime minister, chief minister recommend president governor as per his vision and requirement of the government. So basically कोई भी नंबर कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर का फिक्स नहीं है. प्राइम मिनिस्टर प्रेसिडेंट या चीफ मिनिस्टर गवर्नर को रिकमेंड करता है एज पर द रिक्वायरमेंट कितनी है गवर्नमेंट की मिनिस्टर्स की. ओके, व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ स्टेट्स, number of ministers is also not fixed. They are also not fixed. It is decided by prime minister or chief minister time to time. Deputy minister, number of deputy minister is also not fixed. Prime minister, chief ministers appoints them as per requirement. So in all three cases the things are similar, and the role of prime minister, chief minister is also important. Cabinet usually meets once in a week only. Cabinet ministers takes part in meeting. So cabinet क्या होता है कि एक वीक में एक बार मिलती है, and it is also called as cabinet meeting. Other categories of ministers do not take part in the cabinet meetings. So cabinet meetings में सिर्फ cabinet ministers आते हैं. Other categories of ministers do not take part in cabinet meeting. Now when you talk about ministry of state, they do not generally take part in cabinet meeting. Generally they are not taking part in any cabinet meeting, but they can do so only by invitation. अगर prime minister उन्हें invite करता है, even though they do not take part in cabinet meetings, decision taken by cabinets are binding on them. तो जो decisions cabinet meetings में होते हैं cabinet ministers के द्वारा, वो binding होते हैं इन सब पे, minister of state पे. और deputy minister, they do not take part in the meeting of the cabinet. When we talk about the cabinet minister, cabinet plays central part in policy formulation and decision making. जो भी पॉलिसी फॉर्मुलेट होती है और डिसीजन मेकिंग होती है उसमें सेंट्रल पार्ट प्ले करता है कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर्स. व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट, दे इम्प्लीमेंट द डिसीजन टेकन बाय द कैबिनेट. जो भी डिसीजन लिया है कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर्स ने, वो इम्प्लीमेंटेशन कौन देखता है? मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट. एंड व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट द डेप्यूटी मिनिस्टर, दे असिस्ट देयर सुपीरियर मिनिस्टर इन देयर एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव, पॉलिटिकल, पार्लियामेंट्री ड्यूटीज. The salaries and allowances are determined by the Act of Parliament, State Legislature of Cabinet Ministers. When you talk about Minister of State, their salaries and allowances are similar to Cabinet. So salaries and allowance of the Minister of States is similar to the Cabinet Minister, and usually the salary of Deputy Ministers, their salaries and allowances are usually less than the Minister of the State.